unthinkable has just happened in your neighborhood. There was an earthquake or a flood. You've just had a tornado hit or a hurricane is on the way. You have to evacuate, and you don't know when or if you will return. What about a biological event like the avian bird flu, or even a nuclear accident? What do? How do you survive until the authorities come, and when will they come? Welcome to the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show, designed to teach everyone what their choices are and how to buy and actually use the right equipment. A show that provides you hands-on experiences by cooking delicious, nutritious meals using canned goods, dehydrated foods, sprouting seeds, and gardening seeds. With step-by-step demonstrations on how to have a positive adventure during disastrous times versus a life-threatening survival of the fittest experience. It's now your choice. Knowledge truly is power. So here to take the mystery and trepidation out of being prepared is the host and creator of the show, Reg McDaniel Jr.
Hi, I'm Reg McDaniel. Welcome to the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. My cameraman and I have flown all the way to Chicago, Illinois, to the headquarters of one of the most phenomenal inventions you're ever going to see. We're actually probably going to make this 2 episodes. There's so much information you need to know. And we're going to put this right at the front of the episodes because it's one of the most important pieces of emergency equipment you could ever have. And it deals with solar ovens. That's right, solar ovens. Now, what we're going to do is introduce to you the president of the company where the manufacturing takes place here in Illinois, Mr. Paul Munson. Come on up, Paul. Good to see you here, and thank you so much for having us come. Mm-hmm. And Paul, how long have you been with the company now? And what was
We've been making the ovens for 9 years.
9 years, okay. And tell us a little bit about the inventor, his name, and how this came all to be.
Well, the ovens were invented initially by Tom Burns, and Tom owned a chain of restaurants in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Tom was also very active in Rotary International. And Tom started making or tinkering with the sun ovens shortly before he retired, and then as a retirement business he started making the ovens. He had seen in his travels with Rotary a need for them in developing countries where deforestation was a real problem, and in his experience in owning restaurants, which also had some bakeries, he really understood a lot about cooking. So he took those skills and put them together and developed the most highly effective solar ovens in the world, and he called them sun ovens.
Okay, and now I understand a sun oven, as many as you've sold so far, saves what, about 150 tons of wood a year?
Well, we make 2 types of solar ovens.
Okay.
One is a family size oven that's able to cook for a family of 6 people in the US or 8 people in a developing country. The other is a large oven that we call a villager sun oven that can cook for a whole village. And when one of the villager ovens is used in a bakery operation that replaces a wood-fired bakery in Africa, it saves about 150 metric tons of wood per year.
And that's just one oven?
That's one oven.
Okay.
And that translates into about 275 tons of CO2 emissions, greenhouse gas emissions that go into the air.
So it helps with the global warming issue also.
Okay. A great deal.
Well, what we want to do next is we're going to bring one of the family size ovens and have you talk all about it and what it can do and what it can't do, okay?
All right.
Do you feel a need for more food storage but don't have the usual $2,000 or $3,000 to get it? Do you have the basic foods for survival but want more variety, nutrition, and selection? For a very limited time, you can have 1 year's supply of gourmet food storage delivered to your door for just $500 down and a low monthly payment for the balance. That means you can get all this food now and pay for it in affordable budgeted payments. Call Cooking with Home Storage for the details at 435-835-8283. That's 435-835-8283. Pay $500 now, get the 1 year food supply right now, and make affordable monthly payments for more peace of mind. That's 435-835-8283.
I like that handle. That's really great for carrying.
Yeah, this the whole oven folds up. It only weighs 21 pounds and it carries like a suitcase.
So that's like 2 bags of sugar. Okay.
And to set up the oven takes literally a matter of seconds. You just take the oven, you open this up. It's got a little pin here that allows you to lock the reflectors in place so on a windy day they stay in place. And then the oven opens and you can put your food inside the chamber.
Now notice this is glass. What kind of glass
That's
is
a
this?
tempered glass.
So it's like you find in your oven.
It's right, and it's a shatterproof glass. I mean, it will break if it gets dropped real hard, but it's very unusual for it to break. And
I
then,
like how you got a tray in here when you tilt it forward, the tray levels itself.
and if you put, I've got some bread raising, but just for an illustration here, if you put your bread, or if you put a pot with liquid in it, then if you move it to follow the sun, your food will stay level. And it has a leg built into the back of it that allows you to adjust it wherever the sun is in the horizon. So early morning or late afternoon or in the winter when the sun's further up, you'd have this raised up. Midday, you'd have it pretty well sitting flat on the ground. Now the the reflectors are made of an anodized aluminum, which will never oxidize, rust, or corrode. They're 96% reflective, and yet they clean just like glass. So when they get dirty, they're able to be wiped off just with Windex, or in a developing country use ammonia water or vinegar water, but the same way you clean glass. The whole oven has been designed to be in a developing country for 15 years with no maintenance. So literally, if you put it in the garage when you're not using it here in the U.S.,
It just extends the
it would last a lifetime. And the inner box of the oven is made of an aluminum that's been coated with a powder coating that makes it easy to clean if you spill something, but also is non-toxic. And then this leveling tray does remove, so that if you do need to clean it, you can just wipe it right out. And also, if you wanted to expand the size of the oven, what you cook in it, you can take this leveling tray out so you can put something bigger in it.
So like a 15-pound turkey?
You can put up to a 15-pound turkey in here if you put it in a baking bag, and then you put it on a trivet or something just to raise it up off the bottom,
So
so you get airflow all the way around the food. Because the amazing thing about solar cooking is that when you're cooking in here, what you're doing is heating the air around the food. So the pot, the food, and the air around it all are the same temperature. It's a totally even heat, so you don't have to stir foods once you put it in, and you don't have to worry about hot spots. Your food will cook all the way through.
Well, speaking of hot spots, one thing that's going to enter a mother's mind is what if you've got this closed and you're cooking some bread or something, and your little infant comes along and trips and puts their hand on here or touches this? What's the issue there?
Well, the reflectors themselves never get hot.
Okay.
No matter what the temperature is, it can be 400 degrees inside the oven and you don't feel any heat there. Between the metal box and the outer plastic box, there's a thick pad of a non-toxic fiberglass insulation to hold the heat in.
Also,
that also means that if you touch the side, you don't feel any heat. The surface of the glass, when it's 400 degrees Fahrenheit, gets up to being between 140 and 150 degrees, which will sting you if you touch it, but isn't going to burn. Now, the inside of the oven, you have to wear oven mitts when you take food in and out, because it's hot just like any oven, but there's no way that a child or an infant is able to get hurt or injured in it. The nice thing about the heat that does come off the glass is that it is warm enough so that if your neighbor's dog wants to eat your pot roast, they can have a bit of a problem. You know, they're not going to be able to do that. Right, okay. Exactly. So, and then the leveling tray, as I said, removes or can go back inside. And this frame here is made of wood, and then the outer box is made of a very durable ABS plastic. Because it's so well insulated, we can get away with using a plastic outer box to keep it lighter weight. And when you put your food in here, this forms a tight seal. Actually, the most important part of the oven, most people think, is the reflectors, but it's this black gasket here. We have a patent both on the shape of the gasket and the material.
Okay.
The shape is important because if the food outgasses, it allows gas to escape out the back of the oven. The material is important because you can have this in the sun every day for 15 years and it's not going to split, and it's going to form an airtight seal to keep the food in. Now, one of the things that campers like about that airtight seal is that if you're car camping, you're like me, you never have enough room in your cooler the first night, you can take and put one of those frozen ice bricks in here and use it as a cooler, and then the next morning when you have more room, switch it and start cooking. Sometimes when I go on picnics, I'll put frozen food or refrigerated food in here, and then when I get to where I'm going, I can start to cook it. So it can double as a refrigerator. One of the other interesting aspects of the oven is that if you don't want to do it airtight, this latch can be raised up and you can use it as a solar dryer.
So like a food dehydrator.
It's like a food dehydrator. You could dehydrate meats. A lot of hunters will make jerky and different things in it, and it enables you to use it as a solar dehydrator.
So you can do potato slices, apricots,
just
apples.
about right.
Okay.
And you could dry it in here, and by leaving this up, you'll keep it at temperatures. When you're drying, you want to stay under temperatures of about 107 degrees Fahrenheit or below. So you'll keep it at a low enough temperature, but the moisture also is able to escape.
And to keep it at a lower temperature, you just adjust the oven?
You move it a little bit out of the sun.
Okay.
And the focusing it, you just set it directly in the sun, and it's very easy to focus when you use it.
Okay, great. Well, now these are used for cooking. The reason I'm excited about this product is if you wanted to have a year's fuel supply as an emergency preparation item, it would take a pile of wood the size of your house, because your kitchen is bigger than the pioneers' homes were back in the day. So this is a great way to extend the life of your fuel if you're going to use propane or wood or oil or diesel, if that's what you decide to have a supply of. This is going to extend it substantially. And the other really interesting thing you mentioned to me that I think is really important for our viewers to know about is you can't burn food in this oven. Is that correct?
Right. It's a totally even cooking. So what happens is, because the pot and the food inside it are the same temperature, you don't have to stir food, you don't have to tend to food. And it will keep the food from burning, and it also, there's no movement of air, so food doesn't dry out, which allows you to cook. There's two different ways to cook in a sun oven. One is, if you move the oven to follow the sun every 25 to 30 minutes, you'll keep it up at temperatures above 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and your cooking times are fairly comparable to cooking in a regular oven. You can cook, for example, a 3-pound chicken in about 90 minutes. Or if you take the sun oven and you put the chicken in the morning, set it where the sun's going to be midday, you can come back at dinner and have a perfectly cooked chicken, and it wouldn't really make any difference if you came back for dinner at 4 o'clock or at 8 o'clock. It's well enough insulated. The moisture stays in the food, so you can slow cook with it. So I know a medical doctor, for example, who lives in Nevada, and he's been cooking in sun ovens for actually longer than I've been involved with it, for about 15 years, and he never knows in the morning what time he's going to be home. He takes his food, he puts it in the oven, sets it where the sun's going to be midday. Sometimes he's home at 5 o'clock, sometimes he's not home till midnight. Either way, his food's ready for him when he comes home.
So it's almost like a crock pot.
Yeah, you can use it like a crock pot by leaving it in one place, or you can cook. It's going to be a little bit slower than cooking in a conventional oven, but you can cook in comparable times by just refocusing it more often to follow the sun.
And then the last thing is if you happen to be on the move, you just collapse it down. You've got your little suitcase handle, only 20 pounds. You could put it on a trailer or a wheelbarrow or carry it yourself. So it's instant fuel wherever you go.
Exactly. Wherever there's sunshine.
And what are some of the conditions you can cook in? Like you were telling me, ice fishermen. Tell me that story.
Well, because the oven's so well insulated, you could set it in a snowdrift to cook. It's a matter of the amount of direct sunlight you have, more so than the outside or ambient temperature. So ice fishermen will use these in Minnesota because you can set this on a frozen lake and it's going to cook. Or we have pictures that have been sent to us from Nepal at Mount Everest, where one of the outfitters at Mount Everest for the last 11 years has been using sun ovens because it never gets above 10 degrees Fahrenheit at the base camp, but they're able to have a lot of direct sunlight. And
there's no wood at that altitude.
There's no wood at that altitude, and now they make them haul down everything they take up, so they don't have to bring propane canisters up. They're able to just use the sun. So the ambient temperature isn't the issue. It's a matter of direct sunlight, so even on a winter day you can still use the sun oven as long as there's sun. Okay. There has to be enough sun to cast a shadow to use it at all.
So you can have it on an overcast day as long as you've got a shadow?
As long as you have a shadow. The more sun you have, the faster it's going to cook. But because of the even cooking and because of the non-drying, I can make one loaf of white bread, for example, in here in about 45 minutes.
And how do you brown the top of that loaf of bread?
If I was going to make a loaf of bread, what I do when I first put the bread in the oven while the dough is still very soft, I spray a mist of water on top of it.
Just a mist of water?
Just a mist of water, and then we'll get a nice brown crust on it.
Okay.
But I've made bread on cloudy days, and I can make one loaf in 45 minutes, or 2 loaves will fit in here at the same time, and I can do that in about around 10 minutes. On cloudy days, I've cooked bread that's taken me close to 3 hours to cook because the sun has disappeared. And it still comes out fine. In a regular oven, if you cook bread for 3 hours at temperatures around 200, 220 degrees Fahrenheit, you'd have a rock. It'd be a great doorstep, but you would stop, but you wouldn't want to eat it.
Right.
The other interesting thing about cooking with the Sun oven, because of the evenness of the heat, it allows you to have so much more flexibility. When you're in doubt, you just cook something longer. I mean, it's not
That's the rule of thumb.
complicated, right? It's so simple to cook, and it's really hard to screw things up. And because you can bake, boil, and steam, there's almost nothing you can't cook in it. I just came back from Afghanistan, for example, and I did training with the ovens, and many of the foods they eat, they'll fry and saute and get and do in various stages. We just put everything in the pot, cooked at the same time, and it came out perfect. So it's such a forgiving method of cooking. When you're cooking things like vegetables or rice, you use a third less water than if you were cooking in a conventional oven or a stovetop, which with vegetables allows more moisture to stay in the water. More moisture to stay in the vegetables, and you don't wind up pouring out a lot of nutritional value down the drain.
And I met someone who owned one of these, which is how I found out about you. And one of the things that he absolutely loved about it is that he can't burn or scorch his rice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a big factor because a lot of people have a lot of rice, brown rice or white rice, whatever kind they have, in their food storage. And so this is like, in my opinion, you could have something if you want, cooking on a volcano stove we're going to show you in the future, or a Coleman stove using propane, or a campfire stove using a Dutch oven. And then you can have this to the side of it, cooking a vegetable or a rice dish. So you can combine the two, so you got multiple ovens set up, almost like a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
That's really phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what we're going to do next is we're going to show how these are made, how they're manufactured step by step. We think you'll find that very interesting. And then we're going to make some bread in our solar oven. We're going to go outside and make some. And then for our grand finale, we're going to show you a solar oven that is going to knock your socks off. So, and I'm really excited to show that to you. It just raises the hair on the back of my neck just thinking about it. So let's, with Paul's permission, we're going to go into the factory now and show you how it's made, the quality. And we want you to know that this company isn't doing this just to make a bunch of money. They're trying to make a difference in the world, make a difference in other countries, especially third world countries. Rotary International has been involved in buying the large solar oven we're going to show you. And this is just a phenomenal product, and we may even be able to arrange so that if you want to send some kind of financial support to have this shipped to other countries, we can make arrangements through Rotary International for you to do that. Because with a lot of charitable things, you help individuals, whereas with this, you're helping a whole village with what we're going to show them for the grand finale, a whole bunch of people, you know, if not hundreds. Mm-hmm. And so let's go to the factory next, and thanks for giving us this demonstration. Mm-hmm. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Here's a unique emergency preparedness item for your consideration. Do you live in a large city, or do you have married children in a large city? Well, check out this incredible portable kitchen, especially fantastic for people who expect to have to get out of town in a hurry. It fits in the back of your truck. It's extremely easy to load. It locks for security purposes. Just look at all these great amenities. It has a double stainless steel sink, 2 separate propane grills, a microwave, a refrigerator, a meal preparation station, and lots of cabinet space. And it folds up into a compact box so you can bug out in a hurry to your next location. This is a limited edition system only, extremely durable. Only these units are gone. They're gone for good. The suggested retail price from the manufacturer was $69.95, but you can own one for the liquidation price of only $3,500. And that's not all. If you order now, you get all these extra accessories for no additional cost. A double-sided grill with a protective case, 2 grill boxes for the propane stoves, a 5-gallon jug for clean water, a drain kit for the sink, over $500 in free extras for the low price of only $3,500. This is a covert get-out-of-town system, and all your neighbors will think it's simply an awesome tailgate party toy. But this is no toy, so if you don't have to wait for when you leave town for an emergency, you can practice emergency preparedness right now while preparing to be having a tailgate party to everyone else. It goes where you go. Call 801-687-8787 or go to selfpreparedness.com and type in tailgate survival system. Do it now before they're all gone.
Okay, now we'll put the bread into the oven and get it started cooking. Now, the tray here will hold 2 loaves of bread. what I usually do when I make bread is I'll take just a spray bottle of water and I'll spray a mist of water across the top of the bread as I first put it in. And that helps to allow the bread to brown. And then I'll just put this inside here, close this, and seal the two latches, set it in the sun, and in another probably about an hour and 20 minutes or so we'll have two perfectly cooked loaves of bread.
Okay, so we'll come back in about an hour or 15 minutes or so and see what our bread looks like and tastes like, okay? Reg McDaniel here again, and we're in the factory of the International Sun Oven Manufacturing Plant. And I have Alan, right? And your last name, Alan? Del Busto. Who's going to show us the manufacturing process step by step. We'll just take clips and show you. It takes about, 2 hours from start to finish, put one together.
Points on it.
Uh-huh.
Like this. Put glue.
Right. Okay.
For all these pieces. For this. So that's basically, and then when you paint it. Bend it. We get.
Okay. Drill the holes.
Drill the holes.
Right.
Fine. Another one in there.
Now, is that a heat resistant?
This fixture has the placement. Screw this on.
Everything fits in the contour.
Put it on. The whole outside here. It's only a soft aluminum. Cut the reflector in half. I like when they're cut in half. Reflector. About one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time, Sean.
No problem.
You ever been so hungry that your shoes begin to smell like a good T-bone steak? I hope not. Trying to thrive and survive in adverse conditions is not an easy issue. Just having food to eat many times is a comfort. But to be able to thrive is much different than being able to just survive. Trying to live off what many people think is a home storage of wheat and powdered milk and a few other items is not the way you want to go. We have put together the Patriot Pack. The Patriot Pack is a unique combination of foods, enzyme active cereals, energy bars that all you do is add water, cereals that are packed with energy that is giving you about 1,800 calories a day. One of the important factors is the vitamin mineral supplement that goes with it that makes all of the other foods come alive. That gives you all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and digestive enzymes that you need to function properly. Energy is where it's at, and in thriving you have to have energy. There are 180 delicious meals in the Patriot Pack. Not just ordinary meals, but something you would eat in a normal diet. They're excellent to eat. As a matter of fact, they smell good, they taste good, and they make you feel good. This Patriot Pack is so unique that it contains a blend of not only foods that you need to heat to be able to eat, but a unique combination of sprouting seeds that when placed in this very dynamic, easy sprouter, can even be carried inside a jacket in the middle of winter and sprouted, and you have live, viable foods. The seeds that are in here are a combination of powerful grains and cereals that when sprouted give you live, enzyme active, real foods. We're talking about real foods, not just fake foods, canned foods. There's nothing in here that is fake. Even the fruit juice that's in this package is made with real fruit, not synthetic flavorings. It is designed to give you energy when you need it. The package also contains real dried fruits, air-dried fruits that are still enzyme active. They're all in foil packs, and these packs are easy to store. As a matter of fact, everything comes in 2 boxes. And there's enough here for yourself for 60 days or 2 people for 30 days. So don't be without. consider using the Patriot Pack as a real insurance policy. So the Patriot Pack is a unique combination of live foods, vitamin and mineral supplements, granolas, cereals, pastas, bars, and all kinds of other things that are going to make thriving exciting. The Patriot Pack is something you consider to thrive and not just survive.
Hi, welcome back to the show. I'm Reg McDaniel, and this is the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. What I've asked Paul to do today here at the Global Sun Oven Factory is to share some of the stories of the humanitarian nature that they've been involved in. And let's start out, Paul, with you telling us, and just look at our viewers here, the mission of your company and some of the stories that we talked about earlier, okay?
Okay, well, basically our objective, our mission is to provide an alternative to cooking with wood or charcoal in deforested developing countries. There's a lot of countries around the world that the forests are disappearing quickly, and in the U.S. we don't always understand all the effects of deforestation. We have a plant, for example, where we're making the ovens in Haiti, and Haiti is 99% deforested. In the capital city of Haiti, women spend up to 55% of their household income just buying charcoal to cook with. In 2005, there were more than 6,000 people killed in Haiti as a direct result of mudslides that were off of hills that used to have trees that held the mud in place, and villages were completely wiped out, and 6,000 people were killed by the mudslides as the deforestation gets worse and worse. And Haiti is a country that used to have a great deal of offshore fishing, but they've lost much of their offshore fishing industry because so much of the topsoil has eroded and gone into the ocean, and that's destroyed the natural habitat for fish. So as we look at deforestation, it has a tremendous negative effect on people's lives. As the soil washes away, oftentimes the ability to grow crops decreases, so the yield of crops per hectare or per acre decreases, and it has a major effect on the overall lives of people. And in many places like Haiti, because the deforestation has gotten so bad, most of the streams silt up, so even though it's a tropical island that has a great deal of rainfall, the streams fill with mud, and consequently the water quality that people get is terrible. So when we can provide an alternative like sun ovens to cooking in a place like Haiti, it can replace about 70% of that wood, and it can make a huge difference. Throughout the world, in developing countries, when people cook with wood or charcoal, on average they use an average of 1/2 of a metric ton of wood per year. So a family of 8 people uses about 4 metric tons of wood to cook with. So one sun oven can replace about 70% of that and save 2.8 tons of wood per year. But in addition to the whole issues of deforestation, one of the real things that makes a big difference with sun ovens is that when a woman cooks over an open fire, she's inhaling a lot of smoke. And typically in Africa, when a woman cooks over an open fire, she inhales the equivalent of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. And in Africa, throughout the whole continent each year, 1.5 million children under the age of 5 die of respiratory diseases related to lung infections, primarily from indoor air pollution, primarily from cooking fires. So when we can replace about 70% of that wood, we have a tremendous effect on the lives of women and children. We have projects in places where the women previously were spending up to 8 hours a day going out gathering wood. So the amount of time difference it could make is absolutely incredible. We've worked with some organizations that have taught women to solar cook because they wanted to do things like train them, worked with some missionary groups that wanted to train women on Bible studies and understanding more about Scripture, and women just didn't have time. So when they taught them to solar cook, the women could bring their ovens, they could cook, and then they could go to class at the same time, and it wound up freeing up a great deal of their time and just improving their whole quality of life. In addition to the whole issues of indoor air pollution and the whole factors of the deforestation, cooking fires do create a great deal of CO2 emissions that go into the atmosphere. And, there's some debates in regards to global warming, but it's pretty hard to deny the fact that the amount of CO2 emissions that go into the atmosphere from cooking fires is actually because there's 2 billion people in the world that cook with wood or charcoal. There's actually more pollution created by cooking fires than there is from all the industrial and automotive pollution combined. So it can make a big difference in our overall atmosphere and the way that it affects the possibilities of global warming, and it has a tremendously important effect on people's lives. One of the things, as I had mentioned earlier when we talked about the sun oven, that it's very well insulated to hold the heat in. And what we've done is design the sun oven to be culturally appropriate for the developing world. In most developing countries, people eat their main meal of the day well after sundown. People work when the sun's out and eat after sundown. So the sun oven is able to keep food warm for quite a while after the sun goes down, which is really important to make it culturally appropriate for people to cook. Last year I had a meeting at the World Bank with the Minister of Energy from Uganda, and she told me that she's doing everything she could to keep solar cooking from coming into Uganda, which surprised me.
I'll stop you there because of this training.
3, 2.
Now, this next story I wanted Paul to share is about a country called Uganda. We've all heard of that country, and how they actually were trying to outlaw solar stoves, and why, and what Paul's organization was able to do to change that. Go ahead and tell us that story, Paul.
Well, last March I had a meeting at the World Bank with the Minister of Energy from Uganda, and I was explaining sun ovens and telling her what we were trying to do with starting to make them in her country, and she stopped me and said she was doing everything she could to prevent solar cooking from coming into Uganda. And I was very surprised about that, but she explained that she saw that solar cooking in her mind had a major effect on women getting abused. And really took me back because I had not ever thought of it from that angle, but what she explained was she had done a project with some inexpensive solar cookers, and they trained a number of women to use them. The women would go home, cook food for their husbands in the afternoon, but then when they served the food to their husbands, it would be cold, and the husbands would often beat their wives. So we saw that the concept of solar cooking with you can make a solar cooker out of cardboard and aluminum foil or a lot of different ways, but the concept of solar cooking had a major effect on women getting abused. So when we explained to her that the sun ovens were well insulated, and then we made arrangements for the group we're working with in Uganda to go to her office and cook meals for her staff in the sun ovens, and they took one meal and they literally left it in the oven for 3 hours after everybody went home, and then they opened it up to prove that the food would still be warm and moist. And now she's approved, and we've actually gotten a tax exemption, which is a major issue we needed in Uganda to be able to get started, and we hope by the end of this year to have an assembly plant open there making the ovens.
Okay. Well, that's it for this segment on the solar ovens. I hope you're as excited and can't wait to get your hands on one as I have been, and I own one. The last thing I'd like to say in closing this segment is, having been a member myself of Rotary International for 10 years, I'm a big supporter of many of their projects, and one of their projects is providing these large solar ovens I've shown you to third world countries and to help a village out. If you would like to make a donation that's tax deductible, here on the site, on the screen that you're looking at right now, is the Rotary International for Sun Ovens website, and you can make a tax deductible donation and help a village get one of those stoves faster. So I'm hoping some of our viewers are a little better well off, shall we say, financially than others, and want to make a difference on a whole village rather than just a few individuals. You can do that with this program. Well, Paul, I want to thank you so much for your time today and letting us go through your factory and showing us this great, phenomenal product. Appreciate your time, and I think you're really making a difference on this planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I think it's just about time for the bread.
Well, it smells good from here.
One of the things you can see that's kind of interesting is once the food's cooked, it oftentimes starts to form a little bit of a mist on the glass. So Remember, we sprayed some water on it to make it brown and put it in the oven, and now about an hour and 20 minutes later you can see the steam raising from the bread, and we got 2 nice brown loaves of bread ready to eat.
Oh, they smell good. I can't wait to dive into this, and the viewers just have to be jealous. And now for the grand finale, I promised you, I'm going to show you the 1,000-pound solar stove that helps an entire village that you can run a commercial bakery out of. So just walk over with me and take a look at this baby. Okay, not only does it work with the sun, but it's also got an emergency propane line just in case you have a rainy day or inclement weather. People still need to eat. So we hooked up the propane just for demonstration purposes. It just inserts and goes back in, and you can cook out of that. Here in the back, we got these 2 things that go to the side, and I'd open it up, but we're cooking bread right now. And that's where you work with putting your pans, your pastries, or your meats, or whatever it is you're doing. What's really amazing about it, see this little device here, this tilts or forward or backwards the entire thing as the sun might go straight across or something like that. Then, let's say the sun's going from east to west. Watch this. It's on a swivel on the trailer that it came on that I showed you earlier. You can pull it one way or the other to catch the sun. You don't have to be really strong. Pretty amazing. So let's take a picture of the full view of the oven straight on. You can see 2 loaves of bread we're baking in there currently. And Paul sprayed the tops of those with water like he said he was going to. And they've only been in for 30 minutes. And look how that bread is rising, and it's brown on top already. It's got another 30 minutes to go right now at this time. But when it's done, we'll pull it out and I'll eat it in front of you. Howdy, I'm Reg McDaniel, host and creator of the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. My 2 friends here today are going to talk about the emergency bucket they have. One of the things I really like about it is the nutrition and the simplicity of all you do is add water. That's all you need. No special cooking skills, special survival skills, just water. So go ahead, take it away, guys.
As Reg mentioned, he's mostly focused on the food, but there's other aspects to the bucket. Okay, at Food for Health, we prepared several products for you in the event of an emergency. If you've seen our clip here on the show, you know that we survived for 6 days living just out of this bucket. So Derek, tell us what's inside the kit.
Quite simple. Enough supplies for 2 people, 2 strapping young guys like us for 6 days. We've got water filtration, most important item. We've got food, enough for 2 people, 6 days. We even have the pot to cook it in. We've got a great fuel source here which can be used indoor or outdoor. It's non-toxic, and it boils 2 quarts of water in less than 14 minutes.
What about the flashlight? Tell me about the flashlight.
The flashlight's really cool as well.
Don't forget the flashlight.
I love the flashlight. The flashlight will charge the cell phone. That's the most important part. But it is a crank, so you can crank it to get your power, so you can get your light. But more importantly, it's got the radio with it too, so you can always stay in touch. We've got waterproof matches, windproof and waterproof. So if it's windy, you can still light the fire. We got the first aid kit. We've got 2 masks. We've got emergency blankets, which are my favorite. We've got the whistle, we've got the Leatherman tool, and then you've got a bucket, which is really good to sit on if you're tired.
And a whistle. Stranded, abandoned, kidnapped, who knows? You need this emergency kit to survive for 6 days!
2 people!
6 days!
2 people!
And the shipping is always free! I'm Jeff Power, and this is Derek Christensen. And we survived in New Orleans for 6 days out of this survival bucket. You can get yours at EasySurvivalSolutions.com. Go to Reg McDaniel's site, and you can purchase your very own emergency supply kit. And as always, the shipping is free
if you put in TV show in the code.
Again, the coupon code for this emergency kit is TV show.
Welcome back to the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. I'm Reg McDaniel, and today we're going to do a green chili with pasta. And so we start out with 6 strips of bacon, which you can get in cans for your food storage. So you can have canned bacon, as we've talked about in the past. And I've pre-browned it, fried it up, and I've saved a little bit of the grease. Then I've rehydrated my onions from the dehydrator. And then what we're going to do is saute the onions in the drippings of the bacon grease for a few minutes until they get a little more clear. And the front is on high. Okay, so while we're sauteing the onions in another pan that we're going to be cooking it in completely, I've got to add our beef bouillon, which I've reconstituted. And I did 2 teaspoons of beef bouillon to 2 cups of water per the instructions. Different beef bouillons are at different strengths. And beef or chicken bouillon is a great item to have in your food storage in bulk containers or in multiple little containers. Now, in our recipe it says to add a can of like stewed Italian type tomatoes, which is another item we can use in our food storage because canned goods are a food storage item, not just dehydrated foods. What I decided to do today was bring some of my homemade spaghetti sauce with mushrooms that I bottled back in 2005 from my garden. And we're going to use a little bit of that instead of our canned tomatoes, but these work just fine. Now, if I were going to use these, what I would do is take a clove of garlic or a bottle of minced garlic and put some olive oil in a pan and saute the garlic clove. That gives you a real Italian authentic taste. I lived in Italy for over a year and learned how to cook Italian. Bought a lot of Italian cooking equipment and cookbooks. So that's one really great secret to Italian cooking, is sauteing the garlic in the olive oil. Then you just take the clove out, throw it away, and use your oil to cook your meat or add your sauce, whatever kind of sauce, if it's meatless or without meat, with meat or without. So our onions are now sauteed. So we're going to add our tomatoes, and it calls for, like on a can it says 14.5 ounces. So we'll put in a couple of cups of tomatoes. Mix it up just a little bit. Could have shaken the bottle, but I already had it opened. Okay. So 2 cups is about equivalent to a can of canned tomatoes, Italian style. Boy, it smells good. Now we're going to add our red wine vinegar. We can put this in the food storage. It'll last a very long time, many years. White vinegar, apple cider vinegar, red vinegar, all those vinegars will last. And our can of green chilies, now I got these for $1 a can when they were on sale. Bought 2 cases. There's a lot of things you can use these with, like breakfast omelets, when you want a Spanish breakfast omelet with the egg mix, or if you want to make your own homemade flour tortillas. And this recipe too. So don't be afraid to buy a bunch of these. It's just a great spice to life, so to speak. Okay. Now we're going to add our bouillon. And then we're going to have it cook in this pan, the whole enchilada, so to speak, with our uncooked spaghetti. So I've broken our spaghetti into smaller pieces so they'll all fit in here. And the cooking, simmering process will soften and cook the spaghetti. Here we go. Now this is a meatless sauce I'm using today. Let's see, turn that off. However, you could, in the same manner that I've done bottling of the tomatoes, you could bottle your own hamburger with a pressure cooker and then put that into your meat sauce to make it a meat sauce if you wanted to. Then once it's all done, you just sprinkle the Parmesan on your spaghetti with chili pasta and it's good to go. Okay, next we're going to go to our next recipe, which is the focaccia bread. I'm really excited about this because if If you're like me, focaccia bread is one of the best breads in the world, and I really like it dipping in olive oil. We'll go through a quick recipe on that too. So let me grab all the ingredients here. Once again, you can cook this in the solar oven. Here's the bacon. I forgot to put that in to our little soup here. Pasta. Okay. Now on the focaccia bread, as I was saying, you can make it in the solar oven, and you can get a solar oven up to 450 degrees, and it says to bake it at 450 for 20 minutes, so you can do that. And you won't burn your bread like you would in a regular oven. And so let's just get going. And it says in a large bowl you add all the dry ingredients. Now, it says flour. You can use white flour. I happen to grind the 6 grains that I use to 8 grains today. So this is the 8 grain flour we're going to use. So that's one of the dry ingredients. I'll put the cheese to the side because we don't want to put that on until last. And I'll put the olive oil here too because it's on last. Okay, I pre-measured all of our spices. So here's the salt, the oregano, and you can see this recipe on the screen as I'm talking, so get a pencil and paper and write it down, folks, you in the viewing audience. This is our garlic powder, and this is thyme, and here we have garlic salt, and our yeast, and I'm using instant yeast. Now, while you've got all the dry ingredients together, that's the easiest way to mix it is while it's dry. Get it nice, thoroughly blended, versus adding the liquids, which we don't want to do yet. And we had the sugar we put in there too. Now, on the sugar, this is 1 teaspoon of white sugar. I substituted 1 teaspoon of powdered honey for the teaspoon of white sugar, okay? Because you can use honey as a substitute for sugar. I'm a big endorser of powdered honey, so that's why I did that. So our dry ingredients are pretty much mixed now. Okay, we want to add the water and the vegetable oil next. Now, I could substitute the olive oil for the vegetable oil, but it's a good way to stretch your olive oil, which is a lot more expensive, by using vegetable oil, so we're going to do it that way. On the vegetable oil, we need 1 tablespoon. Okay. Then we're going to go with the water, which is 1 cup, right here. Now you can, if you're using a bread machine, this will dry out rather nicely and quickly. If you're doing it by hand, we'll probably add a little more flour. Although it's not absolutely essential, it's just easier to work with, not sticking to your hands and sticking to the bowl and all that so much. I've tried it both ways, and I like to gradually add the water rather than just pour a whole cup in. But I've got extra flour, so we can add more flour if we need to. Now, in an emergency situation, you're not going to have an electric bread machine, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to practice this recipe once without your bread machine so you can get it down. Because this is a great item to have with this pasta we're making today. It's focaccia bread and a dipping sauce. So now that I've got that pretty much mixed, I'll use my hands, which I just washed a little while ago. Once we've got our focaccia bread dough mix kneaded, which means folding it over again and again for those on the East Coast who don't know what that means, we're going to put it into a greased bowl with a warm cloth on top to help activate the yeast so it will rise. And then once it's risen, we're going to punch it down and form it on our cookie sheet and put it in our, in this situation today we're going to put it in a real oven, but normally you put it in a solar oven. It only takes 20 minutes and your bread's done. You don't have to let it rise again. Okay. This is actually working out better than my other batch. Not going to have to add any flour at all. You want it, you know, so it's just not sticky, so you can work with it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay, now we can take this bowl and clean it, spray some butter flavored or olive oil from our can, which is right here. Spray that in there to help stretch our cooking oil or our olive oil. These are great items to have in your food storage. So I'll just get a new bowl and we'll do that real quick. So putting that in the bowl, and we're going to let it rise. It takes about half hour to an hour. Put a warm cloth over the top. When you're cooking, heats up the kitchen sometimes if you're using propane or if you're using alcohol as a fuel. And so you can use that heat to your advantage to make the bread rise faster. Okay, once again, we can have a well-greased cookie sheet by just spraying some olive oil in a can. This comes with butter flavored, regular, non-flavored, and olive oil. Comes in 3 kinds. Okay, now we'll go to our focaccia bread, which is risen. Punch it down once. Now I'm going to put it on my cookie sheet, and I want to mash it out till it's about approximately 1/2 inch thick all the way around. Okay, now we're going to brush the top. Do you have a brush that you glaze with? Okay. Okay, so I love this kind of a bottle. I bought this at a chain store called Big Lots, and I've refilled it about 100 times from my food storage. And I just keep it right there by the stove. It's a nice look. So we've got the olive oil on there. Now it says to sprinkle with like a tablespoon of Parmesan cheese and a cup of mozzarella cheese. So the question comes up to those who are inexperienced, how do you have cheese in a food storage? And the answer is you make it yourself, or you buy it in the dairy and you put cheese wax from the health food store over it, and then you put it on the shelf in your food storage. It never has to be refrigerated. And as long as you have no oxygen getting into it with the wax around it, you can cut out a slot, pull it out, put wax over that slot, use it, put it back on the shelf, take it off, cut it again. Any kind of cheese you can think of, mozzarella, white cheese, cheddar cheese, you can do all that. So when you pull that out of your food storage, you can grate it yourself. So that's one answer. Second answer is there is a company that carries a shredded, dehydrated cheese that you rehydrate with water, and when you put it on, it melts in the oven, just like real cheese, and it is real cheese. Okay, so that's the second way. Third way is there's a cheese which I'm looking into out of New Zealand that comes in a can, white cheese and cheddar cheese. And once I figure out where that's coming from and how to get it, we'll put it at our website for people to get a hold of that, and you can put those cans of cheese in your food storage and open them up and pull it out, and you just start grating the cheese. So that's our mozzarella, and here is our Parmesan. We now put our focaccia bread in our 450-degree oven for 20 minutes, and then we'll spread it around with the dipping sauce, okay? Now, in an emergency situation, you want to have a little timer like this, so we're going to set it for 20 minutes. And it's not a bad idea to have 2 or 3 of these. One for the pasta, one for the bread, one for the dessert, if you're going to have that kind of thing going. Because you're not going to have electricity with timers, you know. You might have a wristwatch if you're lucky that has a timer on it. But just keep that in mind. Now, just real quickly and real briefly, we're going to do a little dipping sauce recipe. And you can add other things to it. You can experiment. I've tried a lot of different things. What I like to do is the oil first. And how much you use just depends on how many people you're feeding. We have a pretty big group tonight, so I'll make enough for everybody. And we're talking teaspoons here, so just a small little amount of these different spices. And ideally, if they have the little holes in them, I like to sprinkle them like this. This is rosemary. That's about right. Okay, a little bit of ground pepper. I don't really care for powdered pepper. I like the kind where you grind it yourself. Everybody knows the difference because everybody wants it ground on their salad at restaurants. So there must be a difference in taste. All right. Now, garlic salt, I do not recommend you buy this in large quantities for your food storage because it takes up space. What I recommend is you buy garlic powder in large quantities and sea salt or real salt, and then make your own garlic salt. Okay? But we're going to use real garlic salt tonight. And I love the oregano in it. And then you just let all these things kind of sit together while your pasta cooks and it kind of gets well blended in a little bit of balsamic vinegar, which I have in my food storage because I love this so much. Well, since there's so many here, we'll put a little more in there. So there you go. There's your dipping sauce ready for the focaccia bread. Okay, our recipe for the focaccia bread's been 20 minutes, so we're going to take it out of the oven. And here you have the finished product. And we're going to slice this up and eat it tonight, okay? Well, that's it for another episode of the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. We want to thank you for watching, and I'd like to take off my hat as always, and let's say that we want to praise the Lord for all the food He's given us on the earth, for the knowledge to survive the bad times ahead, and for the ability to do something about it if we choose. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching. You're now better prepared.
Go ahead.
In 3, 2, thank you for watching. You're now better prepared today to be safe tomorrow.